guys, welcome to Ninh Binh. Known for its breathtaking landscapes, ancient temples and peaceful rivers, this place is often called the Halong Bay on land. So in this video I will show you around Ninh Binh, including the most convenient and best places to stay. We will of course have some nice food along the way, but most importantly I will take you out into the countryside to visit some of the amazing attractions that has made Ninh Binh so popular among both backpackers and more seasoned travelers. And as per usual, at the end of the video there will of course be a review of the hotel I stayed in during my 4-day visit. So let's get right to it. Ninh Binh is located in northern Vietnam, just a little bit south of the capital of Hanoi. There are of course many ways to get from Hanoi down to Ninh Binh, but I decided to try out the very popular Limousine Taxi service. So when you use this service, you're actually first picked up by a normal car at your hotel. You're then driven to a waiting area a little bit outside of Hanoi. And here I guess we waited maybe 15-20 minutes before our taxi was ready. So for this trip I paid $25 one way, booked through my hotel in Hanoi. You can get it quite a bit cheaper if you book directly. Personally though, I like to book things through my hotel, as it makes for a much easier contact point if something happens. Don't expect all the gadgets in these cars to work properly, but it doesn't really matter, as the seats are very comfortable and the trip is not really that long. And I can assure you that my trip was probably much more comfortable than for these guys. Anyway, after arriving in Ninh Binh, it's back into a normal car for your last stretch to your hotel. So there are of course many places you can stay in Ninh Binh. Many travelers though tend to end up in a small place called Tam Coc. And why is this? Well, from Tam Coc you can actually reach quite a lot of the most popular attractions just by bicycle. If you want to reach all of them though, well, you have to rent some kind of motorized transportation anyway. But before we take you out to the attractions, let's first have a little look at this place they call Tam Coc. Tam Coc is kind of built around the departure place for the Tam Coc boat tour. It also has a kind of a main street running through it, where most of the tourist facilities are located. Coming in from the other side, it will look something like this, where you can see the departure place for the Tam Coc boat tour in front. On the main street going through this place, you can pick up what you normally need in your daily tourist life. There are a few fairly traditional tourist shops here. There are a couple of supermarkets that can make your trip a little bit cheaper, and of course quite a few local restaurants where you can get something to eat for a reasonable price. In Tam Coc you will of course also find many hostels, homestays and hotels. And I guess basically anywhere around this city center is a good place to stay. I did especially like though the banana tree. I didn't stay here myself, but I really like the atmosphere. So if you're after the perfect backpacker feel, you should definitely check it out, just next to the Tam Coc boat tour. And speaking of the Tam Coc boat tour, I think this is probably the only tourist attraction in Tam Coc itself. I didn't try this boat tour myself, as I rather took the Trang An boat tour that we will get back to later. But as you see, they do have the capacity to handle a lot of tourists at this place. And the prices are like you can see on the screen. On the sides of this lake in the center of Tam Coc, they actually have a rather nice walking path. The atmosphere around here is very nice. And from here you can also study the rather special feet rowing technique of the Tam Coc boats. So then I was ready for my first full day of activities in Ninh Binh, and I decided to visit one of the most popular attractions in the city, the Hang Mua Cave, which is actually not mostly famous for its caves, but for its beautiful dragon statue on top of one of the karst peaks there. And to get to this place you can go for a very nice bike ride through the rice fields just outside Tam Coc. So to get here I could choose between renting a motorbike from my hotel or borrowing a bicycle for free. And having traveled a lot and seen a few things that can happen to people who drive motorbikes, I normally go for the bicycle. Maybe not the most modern bicycle, but it doesn't really matter, as the roads around Ninh Binh are normally quite flat.
Nice morning for biking. I hope the rain doesn't come again.
And I must admit it was really relaxing to ride around in these lush green rice fields. Although the track was a little bit challenging at some parts. So just a little word of warning before you arrive at the Hang Mua Caves. When you turn into the last long stretch before the entry point, you will encounter these little bit intimidating women that will try to stop your bike to make you park at their spot. But no need to stop, you can just continue until the entry gate. There you can park just on the right side outside the gate or even just inside the gate. The ticket price to this place is 100,000 dong. And after you enter, they actually have a really nice park at the base of this place. So if you have some extra time, you can easily spend an hour just walking around and relaxing here. What you first want to do though is probably to find your way to the back of this place, where they have the stairs leading up to the top of the mountain. The number of steps to the top are maybe not that many compared to other similar places I have been, but some of the steps are a little bit steep at some places. Getting steeper. When you're almost at the top, there's a large platform where you can enjoy the amazing view. From the viewing platform, there's just a short stretch up to the top of the mountain. On top of this mountain, you can basically find two things. One is a worshipping place with a statue of the Guan Yin or the Lady Buddha figure. The second is of course the impressive dragon statue that stretches out along the mountain. And as you see, it is possible to climb onto the statue and all the way to its tail. If you do want to venture out on the statue, it's at your own risk and you should definitely be sure that you're wearing good shoes. Personally, I did go up to have a look at the area, but I figured it was better to turn around at this point.
Henry, just can put your bottom up there.
Sit there.
Put Jack's up here.
Or we can come back down and then we can let you out.
Okay, no.
So instead of climbing the dragon's tail, I climbed up to the second karst peak of the Hang Mua complex. And on the way up here, you can really get a sense of the special formations of the limestones and how they are carved out by the water over thousands of years. On top of this peak, there's not really that much to see other than this little pagoda. But of course you really have a good view from here as well. So then it was time for me to return to the park at the base level. And after walking through this beautiful park, I wanted to explore some of the cave system in the area. And they actually do have some really interesting caves that you can explore. What I really enjoyed though was this cave going all the way through to the other side of the mountain. It kind of reminded me of the scene in the movie The Beach, where Leonardo DiCaprio comes out of the forest and discovers this amazing secluded beach for the first time. This though, just the land version of it. So I did spend a lot of time at the Hang Mua Cave area because I really enjoyed it. But I still had time for one more attraction for the day. And I decided on the Tai Vi Temple, which is just a 20-minute walk from Tam Coc Center. A small and intimate temple surrounded by karst peaks. To get to the Tai Vi Temple, you can walk or take one of these electric buses. one of which actually picked me up on my way to the temple. But I will definitely recommend you to walk at least one of the ways to or from this place, because the nature out here is absolutely gorgeous, even in the rain. The temple complex itself dates back to the 13th century. It's quite small and intimate, so it doesn't really take that long to explore. When I was there, they also had some kind of ceremony that prevented me from going into the main hall of the temple. So back in Tam Coc, let's check out how it looks like at night. Well, full disclosure, I was actually a little bit sick during my whole stay in Ninh Binh, so I was basically in bed by 9 or 10 o'clock every night. So no nightlife for me this time. But I did walk around a bit, and it looks like there were some places that had a little bit of a potential. What I did manage though was to go out for a nice dinner one night. I originally planned to have a pizza from this very nice pizza oven, but when I sat down and realized they had this famous Ninh Binh goat on the menu, I had to try it. A bit pricey, but very nice. So on my second full day in Ninh Binh, I decided to visit those places a little bit further away from Tam Coc. And to get there, I rented a driver for the whole day for 1.1 million dong, or about $44. And as you might know, when you hire a driver in Vietnam, it's always a good idea to bring the phone number of the hotel with you, just in case, because the driver most likely cannot speak any English. Must admit I was a little bit worried that he was watching TV series while driving me, but then again we were well protected. The first destination of the day was the Trang An boat tour. This is the boat tour I had chosen instead of the Tam Coc boat tour. And as soon as you enter this complex, you realize that this is a much bigger tourist machine than the one in Tam Coc. From the parking lot to the ticket counter to the gates leading out to the boats. I must admit I'm not quite sure which of the tours I chose, but it cost 250,000 dong and it lasted for about 2 hours. So when I arrived at this place, I thought I would get the boat to myself, but this is not how it works at this place. They couple you up with other people to fill the boats up. So I ended up with this nice brother-sister couple from Ninh Binh.
Hello. Trang An.
So what's the best thing about this boat tour then? Well, first of all you have the amazing nature. Then you stop by several famous landmarks on the way, like this floating pavilion, which is a really popular photo spot. You also make 2 or 3 stops along the way, where you can watch some really beautiful temples and pagodas. The most exciting thing on this tour though might actually be passing through the long caves. I think we passed through 2 or 3 caves on my tour. And I think I found out that the only English words that our boat driver knew was sit down, that she yelled out several times when the roof of the cave almost hit our head. Close to the end of the tour, you pass through this huge installation about how they used to live here in the old days. And just a little advice at the end of the tour: if you do go on one of these boat tours, do wear sunscreen with a very high factor. Personally, I wore factor 50 just before I went on the trip, but I still got a little bit burned. Anyway, I can totally recommend this amazing day on the lakes of Trang An. After the boat tour, my driver took me to this bustling local restaurant for some lunch. I was a little bit worried if I would get any service among all these locals, but it turned out to be the best food I've had in a long time. A delicious pho. The next destination for the day was the Bai Dinh Pagoda on the other side of the city. This pagoda is a huge temple complex stretching out for several kilometers and including many large temples. And from the welcome area, you can easily see that this place can cater for a lot of tourists. After buying your ticket, you are taken in these electric cars up to the entrance of the park. And after entering the pagoda complex, it's just like being in a large park. On the sides they have long lines of these statues, including Buddha figures in the wall behind. As you move from the entrance and further into the complex, you will soon reach the large temples. I must admit, I didn't really have any expectations about these temples, basically just because of their huge size. So I must admit, I was really surprised when I saw how beautifully they had decorated them inside. The largest temple in the complex is the Three Periods Hall. Guarded by a happy Buddha, this temple is equally as beautifully decorated as the other ones. At the back of this complex, there's a more mountainous area with some caves and an ancient pagoda. So now I think I'm on my way to the ancient pagoda, which is about 850 meters up on a hill, I think. Let's see if I can find it. So I think I found the ancient pagoda to be this one. But more interesting, behind the pagoda there are some stairs leading up to some interesting caves and places for worship. This goes all the way through the mountain, out on the other side. Anyway, it was time for me to get back down again. Huge turtle. Nice breeze. And as always, it's good to know that you're in safe hands when being driven around in Vietnam. So the last stop for the day was the Hoa Lu Ancient City. This place is, as the name says, the remains of an ancient city dating back to the 10th century. It's also known as the first capital of Vietnam. Here you will find open spaces with buffaloes and free walking goats. But the most interesting attraction here, I think, are the two almost similar temples, both dating back to the 17th century. But they are actually modeled after the original temples dating back to the 10th century. And you can definitely see the difference between these temples and the newer temples at the Bai Dinh Pagoda. If you're interested in digging deeper into the history of this place, they also have an exhibition house, where you can learn more about how they preserved this place, as well as watch some artifacts from the old days. Anyway, it had been a long day, so it was time to get back to the hotel. So for my last full day in Ninh Binh, I decided to go out west on the main street to to my first destination, which was the Bich Dong Pagoda. So to get to this pagoda, you just follow the main street out from Tam Coc. And on the way, I made a short stop to visit these guys. And a few minutes later, I arrived at the Bich Dong Pagoda entrance area. And if you wonder where to park your bike at these kinds of places, well, all the attractions in Ninh Binh have these parking points, where you can park your bike for a very small fee. Personally, I like to take a picture of my bike when I place it at places like this, but I never had any problems at these parking points. So the most beautiful part of the Bich Dong Pagoda complex might actually be its entrance area, because it's located on the other side of this little lake, densely covered in lush green duckweed. It almost looks like a large field of grass. I wouldn't try to walk on it though. On the other side of this beautiful entrance gate is a short path leading up to the lower part of the complex. Here you will find some small and intimate temples, pagodas and statues. In the back you will find the stairs leading up to the rest of the complex, which is kind of hidden away in the mountains higher up.
I'm not quite sure what will await me up here, but let's see.
The way to the top is kind of through an intricate path. That, among other things, will take you through a large cave with lots of bats. You can't really see them because it's too dark, but you can definitely hear them. After the cave is just a short stretch of stairs to the top of the complex, which basically only consists of a very small temple and the pagoda. So after visiting the Bich Dong Pagoda, the weather was getting rather bad. It was raining a lot, so I wasn't really sure if I should venture out another 5 kilometers to visit the Bird Valley, which had been recommended to me by the hotel. But I thought, what the hell, I had a whole day, and there was also a cave on the way that I could visit. So I headed out and kind of hoped that the animals on the road would be nice to me. Oh.
Hello, hello. Peaceful.
And after about a 3 kilometers ride from the Bich Dong Pagoda, I reached the Vai Gioi Cave. And to get to this cave you have to climb about 400 steps up some quite steep stairs.
So the steps here are quite small, and it's intimate and very nice atmosphere up here. Just have to take your time.
And these were the only people I met on my way up.
Is it far?
No, you're almost there.
Okay,
It's
good.
gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous, yeah.
Great.
The views and the nature gets more beautiful the higher up you come. And then suddenly you're all alone in this huge beautiful cave. To get to the bottom of the cave you have to climb down a rocky path, and it might be a good idea to take it a little bit slow here, especially at a place where nobody can hear you scream.
Yeah, I think I might be at the bottom of this cave now.
After the cave it was just a short stretch down to the Bird Valley. And this road was actually the only place in Ninh Binh I discovered that was not completely flat. The ticket counter to Bird Valley is actually a few hundred meters before you reach the park. And when I reached the park in this beautiful weather, I soon discovered that this place is actually more of a place where large groups of mostly Vietnamese tourists arrive by bus and are then transferred over to these electric cars to be sightseeing around this man-made park. Me though, I was allowed to bring my bike inside to bike around on my own. So the park itself is very large. It's surrounded by very beautiful nature. It has several places where you can eat and drink, some statues and other nice things you can have a look at. The main activity here is supposed to be this boat ride, where you can go out on the lake and have a look at all the exotic birds. But probably because of the weather, this was not very active when I was here. All in all, this park was a little bit boring for me, but I did bike around for a while just to take in the amazing nature. And on my way back to Tam Coc, I kind of just gave in to the weather.
This was actually quite nice to ride in the rain. Much better than I was thinking.
On my way back to Tam Coc, I also passed one of the smaller boat departure places that there are so many of around Ninh Binh. So let's then have a little closer look at the hotel I stayed in during my 4-night stay. The Liberty Hall Tam Coc Hotel is perfectly located just a 5-minute walk from the Tam Coc Center. And if the Tam Coc Center is here, my hotel would be over here. And to get here from Tam Coc Center, you just have to walk up this little stretch of road. And as you can see, it has a really scenic location just between the rice fields and the karst mountains. The staff at the hotel was really helpful. This guy helped me with a lot of things, including booking my car for the last day. You can also book other tours through the hotel. As for the amenities of the hotel, the first floor is dominated by a really nice pool, located just next to the dining room. Although very tempting, unfortunately I didn't have time to try out the pool myself. What I did try out though was of course the dining hall. Due to the low season and the fact that there weren't that many guests at the hotel when I was there, we had to tell the hotel the day before what we wanted for breakfast, but not a big issue for me, as I got what I would probably have picked at an open breakfast buffet anyway. At the top of the hotel they have a really nice sky bar. Not a lot of people when I was there, but I can really imagine sitting here at night with friends having some drinks would be amazing. And as I shown you earlier, you can rent motorbikes from the hotel or borrow bicycles for free. As for the room, I really enjoyed my room at the hotel. And given that I had been a little bit sick, I did spend a little more time here than I usually do on these kinds of travels.
Bathroom. With some clothes drying.
One of the best features of this room was of course the balcony and the view from it. So if you do decide to stay in this hotel, try to get a room on the same side as my room. And if you do, you will be able to wake up to this view every morning. Anyway, that's all we have from Ninh Binh at this time. Hope you enjoyed it.